Welcome to this Delphin World video. The original bootleg recording of my 2005 online webinar entitled Instant Manifestation has been viewed more than 2 million times on other YouTube channels. I have since re-recorded an updated version of it and produced a video you can find on my YouTube channel. Of the many comments I have received from people in response to this instant manifestation video, most have asked for clarification of the process of making things manifest. This video is my response to those comments. As you can see, I have chosen to call it Conscious Acts of Creation. Okay, let's start off with this. Every conscious act of creation starts with conceptualization. This video began as a concept, and now it is a real, existent thing. It went through a process. Conceptualization is the genesis of all things. Conceptualization is an attribute of your creative imagination, and your imagination is, for all intents and purposes, infinite in scope. Just for fun, I will say this. You cannot even imagine how vast your imagination is. Universe existed as a concept within the imagination of universal consciousness before it became a manifest reality. And likewise, everything ever created by human beings began as a conceptualization within human imagination before it became a manifest reality. From the simplest of tools, the wheel, the lever, the screw, to our modern technology, the internet, the Hubble telescope, the International Space Station, Elon Musk's Starship, all these things had their genesis in human imagination. These things all began in the act of conceptualization. So did Michelangelo's Statue of David and the Pietà, and so too did Dickens' Tale of Two Cities and Beethoven's Eighth Symphony, and Einstein's general theory of relativity, all sprung forth from human imagination and the act of conceptualization. Now, once something is conceived, conceptualized, it then becomes an idealization. Concepts are often vague, nebulous ideas. The original concept begins the process of realization when it becomes an ideal. The father of all Western philosophy, Plato, stated quite clearly that ideals are the fundamental reality and that the physical things of the world are merely representations of these ideals. The common modern usage of the word idealization is not the true metaphysical meaning of the word. Idealization is not the idolizing of some person, something, or even some iconic representation of the Godhead. Idealization is the creation of the ideal image of something in one's imagination in order for it to serve as a template for the actualization of that thing. Immediately following idealization comes visualization. This is the process of seeing things as real, instead of merely as a concept or as an ideal. This mental picture is created in the mind, which is an active aspect of your consciousness. Form and function begin in the mind. And from that visualization arises the confident expectation that this concept, this ideal thing, this clearly seen or visualized thing, will become a tangible part of one's world. The confident expectation that it will be actualized, made real, or manifest. Okay. I need to interject here the etymology of the word expect. It is made from two parts. Ex, meaning out, as in exit or exterior, and spect, meaning vision, as in spectator or spectacles. It quite literally means to outpicture. Confident expectation, therefore, means exactly this. The thing visualized or seen in mind becomes a thing seen as existent in the external physical world of event and circumstance. The internal mental picture becomes outpictured. After the confident expectation, call it belief if you wish, that this thing becomes existent, the intention for its existence also needs to be in place. If there is no reason for the existence of a thing, why even go to the bother of creating that thing? It is a waste of your mental, emotional, and physical energy. Intentionality, therefore, is critically important. For what reason are you bringing it into being? Why do you desire to effectuate it? Only after these 6 steps of the imaginal process, conceptualization, idealization, visualization, confident expectation, intentionality, and the weaving together of the mental image and the emotional currents of belief and desire is complete, does any of the stuff normally associated with the creation of a thing, such as a piece of art or a piece of technology, the physical doingness actually need to take place. In other words, there is no need to do anything before you know and have a clear vision of what you are doing and why you are doing it. First of all, because you will likely be frustrated in your effort. And second, even if you managed through extreme effort to somehow make it happen, it will end up seeming meaningless to you. Let's make it simple. First, you clearly decide what it is you desire to effectuate, to make manifest. You conceive of it, it becomes your ideal. You can clearly see it in your mind. You truly believe that it can happen. You know why you desire to have it. And then, and only then, do you go about doing whatever it is that you think needs to be done. Michelangelo did not pick up his hammer and chisel until all this internal work had first been done. Learn from his example. Beauty is created in the mind. So is everything else. Do your internal work before you do the external, or you will have sabotaged yourself before you have even begun. Okay, let's look at the step-by-step process of conscious acts of creation from the energetic perspective. After all, everything is energy. Your personal creativity springs forth from the universal source of all that is existent and all that is potential. That creative source is pure energy. As I have said many times before, what matters most is not matter itself. It is the energy that is behind all matter. And so it is with you and your creations. Now, many people look in the mirror or touch their body and imagine that the physical body is the totality of their being. Yes, they will admit that they have a mind, but they imagine that it is contained within their body. It is, according to some, only an aspect of their brain. But you know that there is so much more to you than your physicality. In fact, there are actually 7 layers to the complete you. All of you is energetic. So let's take a quick look at the complete energetic you. Your physical body is only the densest aspect of you. It is energy, tied into the tightest little knots so that it seems solid. It is, of course, not solid at all. We only perceive it to be. Even the most seemingly solid thing, say a rock, is actually pure ethereal energy tied into tight little knots. The next layer of you, your etheric body, is less dense. This etheric body is what people who can see auras see. Because your etheric body immediately surrounds your physical body, changes to your etheric have a direct impact on the physical you, and vice versa. Physical changes can be seen in the etheric body, your aura. And anytime you get within 6 feet of another human being, your etheric bodies are coming into direct contact, touching each other. So sensing someone's vibe is your subconscious becoming aware of the energy emanations of their etheric body. Okay, continuing on. Your emotional body is your next, even less dense aspect of you. Because it directly touches and surrounds the etheric, your emotional being impacts upon your etheric body. Those impacts can also be seen as changes in your aura and often also as changes in your physicality. For example, emotional distress often creates physical illness because of changes in the etheric body that impact the physical. Depression often results in obesity. An angry disposition often results in liver problems or heart attacks. In other words, negative emotional states have a direct impact on both your etheric and physical bodies. So too, of course, do positive emotional states have a direct impact on your health and well-being. And emotional states also impact the surrounding environment. For example, someone really angry or really charismatic enters a room full of other people, and immediately the energy of the room changes. This is the impact a person's emotional body can have on the immediate surrounding environment. It is tangible, especially to sensitive people. Your mental body is your next, even less dense aspect of you. Mental energy is still quite tangible. It can be seen and measured by neuronal activity. Your mental activity not only impacts directly upon your emotional self and your etheric self, it actually creates physical changes in your brain. Your mental energy can also be directly felt by another. Play this game. Stare at another person, sending them a strong thought to turn and look at you, and see what happens. Ever had the feeling someone was staring at you? Maybe they were playing this game. Anyway, mental states impact upon your emotional body. Your emotional body then impacts upon your etheric body, and then your etheric body impacts on your physical body. And that is how the mind-body connection happens. Okay, your astral body is the next, less dense aspect of your full energetic being. It can travel about in the physical while remaining invisible, popping in to check on loved ones, spy on others, or even peer into the future, albeit as though through a dust-covered window into a dimly lit, cluttered room. You might think this is just woo-woo talk, but some people actually do astral travel and or practice remote viewing. There are even government programs in the United States and Russia that have these astral spies. Okay, many people confuse the etheric body and the astral body. They conflate the two, in the same way that many conflate the emotional and mental bodies with the physical body. They see the human being as only being three-layered: physical, astral, and spiritual. Of course, there are others who simply say that there is just the physical you and the non-physical you. And there are those who believe that there is only the physical you. But those folks have never seriously considered quantum physicality. For example, Your skin is made up of molecules, molecules made up of atoms, atoms made up of subatomic particles made up of energy defined as waves of potential until observed by consciousness. It is only then that they become tangible things. We will leave that deeper discussion for another time to continue on now with the sixth layer of your being. Your spiritual body is the next, even less dense aspect of your being. By the way, when I say less dense, I mean to say that it has a higher vibrational frequency. Your spiritual body is so less dense, so ethereal, that when it leaves a physical body at death, only 1 ounce of mass is subtracted from the physical form. And this has actually been measured by researchers. And now we come to your highest energetic frequency, your causal body. If your spiritual body can be called your soul, then your causal body is your oversoul. This is where your personal energy begins to differentiate from the energy of Creator. This is also where your ability to be creative in the world begins. This is where your creative imagination resides. This aspect of you is where you are directly connected to the infinite, to Great Spirit, to universal consciousness, to source energy, to God. Okay, now that we have seen the complete you, let's examine how it is energetically used in conscious acts of creation. All life forms are capable of acting within the world. When a tiger prowls in the jungle, it is simply acting within the world. The way the world is determines the whole of the tiger's behavior. Human beings, on the other hand, are capable of acting both within and upon the world. They can create things within the world. Things like technology or art, things like buildings or books, things like bioweapons, or things like videos such as this one. Okay, let's take a close look at how we can do these conscious acts of creation as a fully awakened and aware causal entity. Knowing this process, this flow of creative energy, enables you to be consciously creative instead of merely acting unconsciously or simply acting within the world, reactively, like that tiger. First, your causal self contains your creative imagination. There is only a thin veil that separates this layer of you, the causal self, from source energy. This creative imagination of universal consciousness seeps into you through this thin veil by osmosis. The creative power of universal consciousness becomes your creative power. It is the most awesome gift. So get inspired to use that gift. Second, your spiritual self engenders the conceptualization of literally any potential thing or concept. There is absolutely no limit to what you can conceive of effectuating. This is how blessed you are. This is how powerful you are. When you act from your spiritual self, from your soul, you are indeed powerful. Third, your astral self takes the concept engendered by your spiritual self and forms the ideal, the basis, as Plato said, for all existent things. It is your astral self that is responsible for idealization. Fourth, your mental self builds and sustains the image, the visualization, the mental picture of your ideal. It adds the details, the form, the function, the color, or the sense of the ideal. You can liken this to the creation of an architectural blueprint. Fifth, your emotional self weaves the confident expectation and the desire to enact. This is where the emotional current of energy, the desire to effectuate, is woven together with the mental current of energy, the mental picture, to create both belief and motivation. Sixth, your etheric self then takes these two braided currents of energy, mental and emotional, and uses them to create the energetic mold, the vibrational density, or energetic plasma, and thus affirms the reality of the thing desired. It takes the architectural blueprint and turns it into an architectural working plan of action. This is where the intention to act upon the world in order to effectuate the ideal occurs. This is also where the intentionality of the actions is defined. So both the how and the why are defined by your etheric self. And finally, the seventh step, your physical self, effectuates and actualizes the ideal by directly acting upon the world. It does the doing. It takes a good look at the architectural or action plan and then picks up the boards, the hammer, and nails to build the house or ideal home first conceived of by your spiritual self. So this is how you can perform conscious acts of creation. First, in knowing that you have the power to create anything in your creative imagination. And from that place of power, your spiritual self conceives of something it longs for or is attached karmically to in order to gain a sense of purpose and meaning. Your astral self, being free to travel through time and space, searches out the various expressions of your concept already existent and then chooses the ideal expression for what your soul has conceived of expressing out into the world. Your mental self takes this idealized version of the original concept and creates a mental picture that can be examined, refined, and further defined. Your emotional self then attaches a tangible, deeply felt desire for its effectualization and creates the belief in its actuality, that confident expectation. Your etheric self takes this combined mental and emotional braid of energy and then, just as it does with your physical body, creates the energetic plasma or pattern of the physical manifestation that will hold it in place in the physical realm. And then finally, it is time for the physical you to actually take the perceived necessary steps. Creating the business plan, talking to potential investors, getting connected to people and sources, finding like-minded people to help you in your endeavor, and working long hours when others are watching TV or sitting in the pub. You are doing the external physical work, but only after you have done the internal metaphysical work necessary to ensure that you are energetically coherent. This internal work may take days or weeks or even months. It can also, occasionally, in flashes of inspiration, take place in mere moments. These flashes of inspiration happen more often for those who are aware of the metaphysical or spiritual aspects of themselves. A quick reminder about where inspiration comes from. The word inspire actually means to fill the heart and mind with grace, to breathe in the divine. So inspiration comes from the divine, from source energy. So in effect, these conscious acts of creation can be called sacred acts of creation when these acts are based upon these spiritual principles. They become soul workings. They are the way that the universal acts through you to co-create your experienced reality. Consciousness is the ground of all being. It is the source of all physical manifest things. Your individual consciousness differentiates from the universal in your causal self, and this is where your conscious acts of creation must be engendered. The physical always originates in the metaphysical. All right, in closing out this video, allow me to suggest that you take a look at my 6-module video series entitled Consciousness, Creativity, and Contribution. Okay, I hope that this explanation of conscious acts of creation not only furthers your understanding of how to go about creating a fulfilling and prosperous life, but also gives you a deeper understanding of the miracle of you. And finally, may I suggest that you read my book entitled The Book of You. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again, ciao for now.